it's one of vigilance. The fact of the matter is the movement is not over, and I think Professor Alton Moultrie wrote a book. He's taught at Morehouse, and he said that the movement is into a nidra, which means it's a phenomenon that's underneath the surface, but it is still evolving. And the whole idea that because Barack Obama was elected President of the United States, that the days of inequality are over, is so ludicrous, it ain't funny. The bottom line is there are manifestations of inequities to people all over the country, and it's happening every day. And it used to be a question of black and white, but it's not only a question of black and white. It has to do with ethnic groups, it has to do with nationalities, it has to do with sex, it has to do with a lot of other things. And one of the things that I try to tell young folks to do, there's a lot of things that personally I disagree with and I object to, but from a standpoint of what's right and what's wrong, from a legal way, from a legal aspect as well as from an ecclesiastical aspect, that I will have to defend, because there's manifestations of racism as it relates to the president. And a lot of the difficulties that are being caused now as far as issues that weaken this country, that are having problems with coming to resolution, that are having those problems because of race, and doesn't have anything to do with what the real issues are. There are folks who you think would be more sophisticated than to just disagree with something just because it was put forth by a black man. Like the lie that was being perpetrated by the Republicans, that was found to be a lie by that organization that looks at what are political injustices and things that are right, is the idea that this was a government takeover of health insurance. It ain't got anything to do with government takeover. It's got to do with access. And that's what the issue was that we sought to address as far as health care is concerned, is to ensure that people had access to health insurance. And the whole idea that it's against the Constitution for the United States, or for the government to require people to have health insurance, is ludicrous. The government requires you to have insurance on your car, requires you to have insurance on certain other things, and it is a protection against misuse of public funds to require people to have health insurance, because why should the government fund be used to pay for the health care of certain people just because they choose not to buy health insurance? Because that's the only other way you get health care. And they're doing that simply because Obama passed the health insurance, and they would rather subject people to a terrible, terrible injustice than to agree that the man was right. And you know, it goes on, and it's going to have different forms. It's going to take different forms, and nobody is going to ever be able to overcome the differences, no matter how subtle or how profound they may be, between races, because it's always going to be there.